episode is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to build your own online website, portfolio, or store. You can go to squarespace.com and use the promo code THUMBS for 10% off your first purchase. It's great. You'll love it.
It's time for the jokes, the japes. It's time for the things that NeoGaf loves. Thanks, bro one. That was like classic trolling, too. That
it was
wasn't
good,
even,
yeah.
Like, so it is a relative scale thing, right? Because in the age of Gamergate,
yes,
this is like getting that just classic. Like, these guys just suck. I'm like,
Good old
Exactly.
fashioned.
It's like getting on
It's so
an
much
airplane
better.
and they're like, you just need to go through the metal detector.
right.
You just need to put your stuff through the X-ray and go through the metal detector. You can't just
Exactly.
walk
We're not
through a
gonna-
hallway, but you don't have to just.
Nobody needs to touch your butt.
We're not
for
going to
this.
demean you in this incredibly complex way. It's just a little bit of a bump on your way
Yes.
Right.
to where you're going. We have not yet devised the most complex, dehumanizing methods
Right.
of
You guys just
sapping
suck.
your spirit.
Your podcast
Yeah,
is
you're
bad.
just shitty.
Classic 1998 trolling.
Yeah, just... Oh. It's the wave you can surf instead of the wave that demolishes your house,
Yes.
really.
What else is it?
It's November 12th, 2014.
This is Idle Thumbs 184. I'm Chris Remo.
I'm Jake Rodkin.
I'm Danielle Riendo.
There is a goddamn ghost in this house.
There's a Vanaman-shaped ghost.
Yeah. Sean is not with us this week because he's in the other room occasionally screaming.
Screaming things about the date and
Yeah.
what's going on
He
in
stopped
life.
listening now, though, I think.
I think so, too.
So how's it going, everyone?
It's good. It's review season.
Oh, God, what does
That's
that mean?
true. Is that crazy for you?
I mean,
I guess you're not doing as many reviews.
yeah, I'm not doing
does that
as
mean
many
that
reviews.
it's roll up to the holiday town?
Yeah, you roll right up and you're like, hey, Holiday Town, give me an Assassin's Creed and a Call of Duty and
Well, Assassin's Creed is a little deliberately late to the review season party by 12 hours or
yes,
something,
by
right?
precisely 12 hours.
Ugh.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not doing as many reviews, but I am playing everything.
Nice.
Or attempting to play everything this year.
What kind of everything are you playing?
So let's see, in the last week, I've played Costume Quest 2, I've played Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, I've played a game I can't talk about, I've played Codename Steam on the 3DS, I've played Super Smash Bros. For Wii U, I've played, what's the other big game that I've played?
Dragon Age?
Not yet. Not Dragon Age yet, but
That is the one that I am
think
most
that's-
interested in.
yeah, that's definitely up.
So what good are you?
Well, no, she said
I'm
she played
useless.
Smash Brothers for the Wii U, so I
Yes.
feel like the list didn't need to go much farther than that.
Oh,
It's true. It's really true. It's really good. 8-player Smash is a lot of fun.
Have you played it with 8 people?
Yes.
Oh man.
I mean, yeah, it's completely crazy. I mean, I've been playing it. I've been doing the 8-player Smash with bots as well as a mix of humans, but I have played it with 8 people, and it's really fun. I mean, it feels like exactly like what it should be, just more chaotic Smash that is more ridiculous. It's harder to tell who you are, but you can also do fun things like something I did the other day is I put 1 Diddy and 7 Donkey Kongs in the Donkey Kong arena and just had a little Donkey Kong party. There's another time we put 8 Little Macs in one arena and just they all suicided off the cliff and things
Man,
like that.
that way of like interacting with games is something I have not done recently.
It's
Yep.
You know, just the
yeah.
sort of the experiment interaction where you're just like, I don't know, 100x damage, no items, go.
Yep.
Right? Just that kind of thing.
Smash Brothers
like,
is all about that, though.
Yeah,
especially
totally is.
when either when you get bored with it or when it just has a weird corner that you find, and that seems to be even more the case, or more more encouraged, or at least more readily allowable in both 3DS and Wii U Smash Brothers, just because they have 7,000 variants of how to play the game, even just within the main menu itself.
And I think even more so with the Wii U version, I think having 8 players makes that even more outrageous.
Yep.
Like having one of one character and then 7 of an identical other character, like that.
It's great.
7 times as many anything as one thing just makes for hilarious times, or can, if you choose good things.
Yeah,
I'm at this point unbelievably excited for the new Super Smash Brothers, and the reason for it is dumb because it is the 8-player thing. Because the 8-player thing is...
Why is that dumb?
The 8-player thing is hilarious, but it's also the least practical mode, right? Like Super Smash
How
Brothers,
often are you going to have 7 people at your house?
Even 4-player Smash Brothers traditionally becomes a disaster unless you're playing with stock, with lives instead of with time, so that people get eliminated over time. Like I imagine 8 players playing with lives would be really fun just because it would start off as complete cacophony, but eventually it just boils down to there being 1 versus 1.
It does.
But
great.
The thing that,
so it's almost like musical chairs for a while.
Right, it's just just complete bubbling, bouncing nonsense.
Yeah.
The thing that 8-player made me remember, though, is that this is the first Smash Brothers that shows up in HD, which means that you can have 8 players on screen, and if you're playing at a huge level like the Hyrule Temple level or something...
That's the one I want to play.
Or the Great Cave Offensive.
Because even
bigger.
Which one's that?
What?
It's from one of the Kirby games. The Great Cave Offensive is
new level?
the biggest. Yeah, it's new and
it's
it
in
has
that
a lot
style,
of...
though, of just that huge...
massive. The characters show up, it's like tiny little itty-bitty characters in it. It's great.
Because like in the GameCube version, which I think is where the Hyrule Temple first showed up, it was an SD game, and if you were playing it with 4 players, you could split on different sides of the map into 2 1 versus 1 matches, basically, that would then occasionally cross over each other. But it was really hard to play that because people had small TVs and because they were only 480 pixels tall.
Yeah.
But now they're measurably more than that. They're 1080 pixels tall, and the screen real estate is twice as big. Yes. I don't know. Like, it will still be stupid and insane, but I'm looking forward to seeing the sort of break apart and sort of coalescing of fights on larger maps on an HD screen, which is the thing that I hadn't thought about until I watched videos of 8-player Smash Brothers.
Yeah, it works really well in that way. And, I've had matches where basically, 3 people were sort of beating up on 1, and then they rejoined the fray, and then there was complete chaos, and then the tables kind of turned. One of those people that was beating up on one of the, the mismatched sort of groups. I don't know. It's really, really fun. The way it just sort of all flows together. I mean, certain maps are not well adjusted for 8 people. And you can actually only play on, I think it's like 10-ish maps, at least from the start. So they definitely sort of, sort of sliced it down to like, this will at least work, in this arena.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it's still, I don't know.
Because I guess without that, you run the risk of the, I don't know. I always associate this with Halo multiplayer. Or like StarCraft 1 back in the day, of people sort of getting weirdly obsessed with game modes on maps that are terrible for them.
Yes.
And I always made me wish that the designers just kind of said, you know what?
Not
this one's for this.
Yeah. And they did here, and I think they did a good job with it.
Anything else stand out in that besides the 8-player stuff? Because I know, like, when the 3DS one came out, it had that whole unique, weird mode where you're inside of the interconnected cave worlds that you then sort of build up items to get into a final arena match, and that was exclusive to the 3DS one, which made me think, does the Wii U have does it have its own sort of hallmark mode besides 8-player shit show?
Yes, it does. There is a mode that is basically like... And don't freak out when I say Mario Party here, because it's nothing like Mario Party. But there's a game board where you...
Like Mario Party.
Exactly. That's the only part that's actually like Mario Party. You're on a board with your other players, and I don't know exactly how many it supports. I did this with 4 players. Let's assume it's 4-player. And you're basically running around that board. You're getting little boosts. It's very much like running around sort of a 2D platformer, only you are actually also fighting other people. You're sort of getting into skirmishes as you meet them on the board, and you are gaining characters to sort of like use in a final fight.
Is the map, or is the board presented like the map in 3D Mario 3D World or something? Like, how does it?
It's presented like a board in
Mario Party.
In Mario Party.
Okay.
Yeah, it's sort of a static board with a set number of spaces. Only there are cards that represent different characters scattered around the board, and sort of buffs scattered around the board. Like, up your speed or up your defense or so on and so forth. And the better you do in that game, the more you have going into the final battle.
Okay, so this is totally the equivalent of that 3DS weird platforming Metroid thing.
Yeah, only it's more multiplayer oriented.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's fun. I enjoyed it. You know, it's not like going to be the seller of the game by any means, but it's fun. And I have had fun with it with other people.
Yeah, no, that was, I mean, a thing that I really enjoyed about the 3DS game is it felt like they put a lot of work, obviously, into the core, just arena fighting game, Smash Brothers stuff. But then they went out of their way, on the 3DS at least, and it sounds like on the Wii U version, to just mix it up and to give you a bunch of stuff to do, either when you're with friends or when you're by yourself. Yeah. Just like, if you want to not just run smash,
totally.
you can just dick around.
Yeah. I really like that mode. I really, really like the sort of the level creator. And, you know, not everybody's going to get into this. That was on
a couple of the previous ones, wasn't it? Or at least, it was at least on
I think it was
Brawl on the Wii.
Yeah, it might have been Brawl.
What is the nature? I've not used that. What is the
At least on the Wii, you build things out of cubes.
Arenas.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, just out of blocks and shapes and stuff. Or...
Yeah, you're actually able to sort of use the little the gamepad itself and the stylus
Halo.
to draw areas. So it's really cool and actually pretty intuitive.
Weird.
So it's fun. I've been making stupid arenas and playing with them and, you know, testing them out, that sort of thing. The Amiibo stuff, I feel like is actually worth mentioning because I kind of think it's interesting.
Thing,
right?
Yeah,
it's their answer to Skylanders and Disney Infinity.
Right.
Yeah, it is, but I kind of think of it more like a virtual pet than just sort of a little avatar because you train your little AI basically to, you know.
Do you need the toy figurine for this to work?
You need the toy.
So you buy your Luigi who's doing his weird sort of fall over taunt and you set it down on a base that's paired to the system? Is that
right on the gamepad itself, yeah.
Oh, what? Okay, weird.
Apparently they built the gamepads to work with these figures. So you don't need any extra equipment.
Anyone that they were doing that? Does that work with normal touchscreens? You'd have to build something for that, right?
There's got to just be some.
It's actually a section. It's not the screen itself. It's a section of the gamepad, sort of the bottom left area. So they just had this in there that was just there for 2 years before they ever made Amiibo figures.
That's really funny.
I think it's weird. It's kind of fun. I don't think you need it to enjoy Smash, but it's
not.
more fun than
terrible.
than I was thinking it would be when I first.
So wait, what do you do? You train? You have a little virtual pet Luigi?
Yeah, you have a little virtual pet Luigi. I have a little virtual
Jake,
pet Mario.
Jake, it's what you love.
I know. You have a Mario?
I have a Mario.
That's fine. I actually.
It's what they sent. I didn't know.
But Mario's he's a good guy. Mario.
I know. I wanted a Donkey Kong, but it's all right. We don't always get what we want.
Not one of the shitty Kongs.
Not one of the shitty ones. He's one of the good ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm having a lot of fun with that. Oh.
Wait, sorry. I don't understand what the Amiibo does besides be a pet. What do you mean?
It's basically a pet that you can bring into any battle at any time, and it's actually like a pretty cool AI character.
Like as an assist trophy sort of situation? Like as just, like you summon this guy and they fight alongside you and then they leave?
Weird.
Yeah, you can do that. Or you can make it against you. You can put it on your team. You can make it a random other fighter.
Does it feel like a benefit versus people who don't have that?
No, not really. I mean, it's sort of like, do you want a cool AI as opposed to just the usual level 9 or whatever level AI that you're setting your bots to? It's basically like
I thought you could bring this character in to fight alongside you as like an ally in a multiplayer match.
Oh, not unless you're on the same team. No. Otherwise, it's just a cool virtual pet AI.
So you have this character that you are doing things to somehow. Do you like feed it or what do you do to it?
You just bring it into fights.
That's it? Okay.
And it learns from you. It learns from your style, and it'll do the things that you do. Like, if you're particularly, like, if you like a lot of air attacks, it'll do a lot of air attacks. Okay. Things like that.
So you can just have...
It's a little pet, basically.
A sort of thing that learns from your play that you can then bring in as a bot to fight against or to pair up with you in a team match.
Yes, exactly.
But other than that, it's just an AI.
Yes.
Okay.
It's not, you don't have to feed it or comb its hair or anything.
Pen where there's like a little like Wario walking around like eating hay and stuff. God,
I mean, that would be cool.
That's better.
I would have liked that.
Eating hay?
Yeah. Like in a little
grass-fed Wario. Yeah. Artisanal grass-fed non-hormone Wario.
Right. Kobe Wario.
Kobe Wario. Oh, it's so delightful.
Kobe Wario.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Waru Pichu. So I wanted to tell you, Jake, about the most exciting thing.
Me?
This is really exciting. So Captain Toad, you were excited about Captain Toad, right?
Yeah.
What is Captain Toad?
Okay.
Okay. So inside of Mario 3D World, there were in each world, one of the levels was a Captain Toad level where you'd play as a Toad who has like a mining helmet on, and he can't jump. So all you can do is move him around and rotate the camera, and you're sort of inside this elaborate puzzle box that's played from a fixed perspective where the camera rotates. It's the camera presentation is actually very similar to, what is that iOS game that looks like MC Escher drawings?
Monument Valley.
Yeah, it's not 100% the like MC Escher trick of perspective stuff,
style of
but it's that style,
yeah.
And you're controlling a platforming character and your objective is just to collect all of the like coins or objects or whatever in this level, but you can't jump. So there's enemies that move around on patrol.
And this is part of Super.
Yeah, it's just because Mario 3D World is like.
It already has that kind of weird perspective.
It's sort of everything in the kitchen sink Nintendo game where there's like 5,000 suits and you can wear all sorts of hats.
Nintendo in general, though, is really good at this, which is putting really clever, seemingly self-contained little puzzle or subversions of the game that they're inside that like hone in on one. Like,
it's very similar to like in Mario Sunshine. Now it had like the super hardcore platforming only levels, which then I feel kind of probably informed Mario Galaxy.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
And so the Captain Toad levels are just like pure space navigation, energy or enemy dodging, timing stuff. But then also occasionally it does have the sort of MC Escher style stuff where perspective actually creates gates. I think, or at least like there's things that are hidden and exposed by spinning the camera.
Exactly.
But they took that and they've made a game that's entirely that.
Yes.
And it looks like because it's more drilled down, the fidelity of the art is a lot higher and stuff like that because they're not building it entirely. They're not using the tool set meant for a huge Mario level. They're actually, I don't know, it looks very pretty.
They're just focusing entirely on doing these levels really well. And it's so good. I've only played a preview build so far. I just, got code for it. But everything I've played in it so far is awesome. And it just feels like, so they had all these ideas making, Nintendo EAD had all these ideas making Mario 3D World and making these levels in it. And then they just decided like, it'd be cool if we just made a whole game of this and made this, brought this all the way to its sort of logical
stuff
conclusion.
That I want, right? Like when I played Super Mario Galaxy, Sunshine, I like Super Mario Sunshine more than some people do.
Sure.
But still,
those levels were the good ones.
Parts were, those levels. And let's play a whole game of that, which they kind of did.
Yeah,
they totally did.
The best parts of Galaxy are like that, although the platforming is never as hardcore as it is in Sunshine.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
In Commander Toad, is there anything new that is notable? Like, did they tweak it at all, or is it just additive?
So what they do is they sort of, it just feels like they really explore the formula in interesting and different ways. Like, there are definitely levels that are more platformer oriented. You're just not jumping.
Right.
Like, there are levels where all of the things that you're running on are made of the, in Mario, like you run on it and after 2 seconds it drops. Entire levels are made out of that.
Yeah, the donut lift?
Yeah, exactly. The donut contraptions or whatever.
A donut lift.
Donut lift. And you have to dodge enemies at the right time and run as fast as you can. And you actually you can shoot things. So that's how you get any of the collectibles in that level. But it's all down to timing. So it's actually like a platformer level without jumping. And that's kind of cool because, that's the core of the Mario series is jumping. And jumping feels really good. And this feels like they're exploring, what if we do cool Mario levels with no jumping?
Yeah, no, that's cool.
I kind of dig it.
That is cool.
So I'm probably more excited about that than anything else coming out in the next few months. I think that's out just about a month from now. I think really early December.
That's intense. The thing about Commander Toad that I like, I like a couple things just from a total top level thing. Like you said, taking the entire mechanic set of Mario and then taking jumping out and making a game is cool in and of itself. And the other thing about this game that is appealing to me is it seems like the sort of game that Nintendo would have put out on the GameCube, and they would not have given it the Mario IP. It would have been it would have just like in the Chibi Robo era or like Pikmin. Like it's Commander Toad, and it's inside of the Mario universe, and it has Mario visual language and art. But it's the sort of game that could have just been a random IP from Nintendo.
Totally.
Which you could argue, you could argue that that's a bummer, right? That the same theoretical game could be, needs this arbitrary license to do well, but on the other hand, that is going to be the case. So they might as well support it in the way that's going to make more people check it out.
Which is even way more classic Nintendo, and it reminds me of like Yoshi and Yoshi's Cookie puzzle games on the GBA and stuff.
Totally.
But yeah, I'm glad that Commander Toad exists.
That's cool.
It's cool.
It is really cool. And there's one more Nintendo thing I want to tell you guys about.
Oh, right.
If you're excited about old Nintendo.
Going big on Nintendo in the opening third of this week's podcast.
I have...
Opening sixth. It's going to be like a 7-hour cast.
It's going to be epic.
That math didn't hold up.
Yeah, that's all right. Talking about Nintendo, math doesn't always hold up with Nintendo. I've like
you mean like how the Wii is 2 GameCubes?
Yes, exactly. 1.5678. I don't know.
That number is not really getting bigger as much as it's getting more accurate.
It's just
I'm just adding. Getting bigger.
It's just
you
barely.
Added like
just by a tiny
100,000th place, a millionth place.
But there's growth. There's definitely growth there.
It's a very level curve at that point. 1.56 versus 1.567.
Yeah, you got to take growth as it comes. You can't just be picky about these things, especially Nintendo right now. I'm sorry, it's true. Okay, I played Ultimate NES Remix.
Okay, no, I'll just
no,
go.
no,
just
it's
go
cool. Go for it.
No, nothing. This is a whole different discussion. I was going to say, it seems like Nintendo.
Why doesn't Nintendo just make games for iOS?
No, that's not what I was going to say. I was just going to say,
why don't they just make games for the Xbox and PlayStation like Sega?
I wasn't going to say that either. Shut up. I was just going to ask Danielle, it seems like you have a bunch of Nintendo stuff that's coming out that is exciting.
Yes.
Does it feel does Nintendo's current stuff that they're doing feel more exciting than what it's been? Because not that I'm saying Nintendo hasn't been doing cool things recently, but it doesn't seem like anyone's been talking about them very much, and it doesn't seem like the Wii U's been a vibrant platform that people have been excited about. Really,
no, a ton of people bought it to play Mario Kart.
Right.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
Mario Kart coming out and getting some heat, coupled with the announcement of Zelda at E3, I think were the two things that made the Wii U sort of
right.
boop, pop
There's
up.
A little pop,
but it doesn't feel like that's a trajectory as much as it's just a bump.
Yeah, it's the little. It's like it's always what you get with Nintendo platforms, right? You get those guaranteed bumps when Nintendo announces their big things, but then the test of the platform is like, what's it like when Nintendo's not actively bumping?
Right, and. Do you think there's any actual trajectory from this, or is this just food accidentally cooked just for you is showing up?
I really hope there's trajectory.
Never get enough food
there.
metaphors in video game discussions.
Yeah, I know. Where are the mushrooms?
Or rather, video game financial and industry discussion can never have enough food metaphors. I think we've learned.
Totally true.
I'm sorry, Danielle.
As a Nintendo fan, I'm so excited. I've been playing all these games and getting really excited about them, and I'm more excited about that than pretty much anything else on a console. Certainly.
Yeah, that's cool.
I've sort of long time been the advocate for, if you don't have unlimited resources, the best two platforms to have right now are a PC and a Wii U, because that way you get probably the most interesting stuff, or the most, the biggest collection of interesting things for sure.
Sorry, what was the actual other thing you were gonna? There was another Nintendo
Ultimate NES Remix.
Oh, what is that?
Which is both. It's like a greatest hits collection of both the NES Remix games, which I
What are the
love.
NES Remix games?
So the NES Remix games, there have been two. They are basically sort of little tiny chunks of really classic games, like the old Super Mario Brothers 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, I think you maybe told me about this ages ago.
I might have. Zelda, it's
is.
basically like greatest hits of the 80s, like the best Nintendo games.
It gives you like single challenges cut up almost like a WarioWare challenge, right?
Exactly. So it basically gives you, there are like 10 sections, let's say, for each game has its own little section, and it teaches you the mechanics, like, this is how you use a freeze beam in Metroid. Do this, 3 times or whatever. And then...
When you said freeze beam, it took me like 6 seconds to realize you weren't saying like a weird pronunciation of frisbee, like freeze-bee. It's like, you get a freeze beam.
Use that freeze-bee. I know, that's how we say it in Rhode Island. No, it's not. Frisbee. And then there are sections where it's the remix sections, where it's like, use Peach in Super Mario 3 to save herself or to save Super Mario, or, do this Mario level at 3 times the speed or half the speed, all sorts of wacky little challenges that are mixed in. So it basically teaches you to play these old games and then gives you these weird little Wario Ware-esque levels.
Okay. That's cool.
I love them. I think they're really fun.
That sounds fun.
And they're finally coming out on the 3DS, which makes sense because it's pretty perfect for a
handheld system.
the mobile platform. But the best thing about this one is they're adding in something called Speed Mario, which is the original Super Mario Brothers at like 4 times the speed.
Yeah,
and it is completely insane. The arc of Mario's jump feels completely different. Like, you know, you're running all the time, but then his jump, instead of having that sort of slightly floaty arc, he just goes down, you know. So you have to sort of relearn the way Mario jumps. It's just fun. You know, I think they kind of just threw it in as a bonus, but it's actually really interesting to play.
That's a really, that's very potent.
Speed Mario speed run.
When you take something that is so ingrained to anyone who has played platformers basically ever as Mario's jump and then totally mess with it, it means a really specific weird thing.
Yeah,
that's how I felt about that that arcade Pac-Man game where I was like, everyone knows how to play Pac-Man, but your perception of how to actually dodge and win is completely destroyed by the fact that there are just 3 other Pac-Mans out there.
Right.
Yes.
So I have a follow-up question.
Yes.
When you were tossing out like hypothetical challenges from this game, or maybe actual challenges from this game, you're saying, for example, use Peach to save herself or save Super Mario. Did you grow up calling him Super Mario? Because I feel like
I did.
You did? Yes. Is that an East Coast thing? Because I feel like that is a thing I remember from my youth on the East Coast. Is like instead of people just saying Mario, actually I would say Mario is what I said in New York. Was like Super Mario. Is like that is his name. The character is Super Mario.
Over on the West Coast, we called him Mario.
Yeah, I learned that when I moved here and got made fun of for calling him Super Mario.
Yeah.
In Japan, they call him Super Mario.
That's true.
See, we were just better, you know, in the East Coast.
I mean, true.
No.
Anyway, if you
Mario
readers, for I don't know, anthropological curiosity, if you in your youth or adulthood,
present,
I guess,
or now,
referred to Mario as Super Mario, or had family members who did, because another thing I associate with calling him Super Mario is like your mom or something.
Totally,
or like someone who kind of has like played a Mario game, but isn't like a video game person.
Sure.
Right? Like they're aware of Mario as a cultural phenomenon and have maybe played it a couple times. Totally. They call him Super Mario.
Yeah, my mom called it Super Mario, and she may have called it Super Luigi too, actually.
Nice.
With Luigi. It also, though, I was just thinking, like, it was the Super Mario Super Show.
Luigi, the game?
He got one in the year of Luigi. Super Luigi U.
Oh, that's
right. But wasn't it just like
It was it was a set of new levels in Super Mario Brothers U.
Right.
But you played as Luigi, and it was called Super Luigi U.
Yeah. I remember now.
We've discussed this, and this inevitably always leads to where's the Waluigi game?
Yes,
and
the
Waru
one that
Peachy
needs
game.
to exist.
And where is Waru Peachy?
Where is Waru Peachy?
She's on Tumblr only.
I guess.
Or DeviantArt, I guess.
Yeah.
God, yes. Speaking of Tumblr and DeviantArt, Sonic Boom.
What is Sonic Boom?
I've only played a little of it.
What is that?
It's the latest Sonic game.
Man, this is the most like video game ass episode of this show.
I played so many games. It's
like,
kind of ridiculous.
You guys want to hear about the latest Mario game, latest Sonic game?
Right. All the newest games from both Nintendo and Sega.
Right.
It's really exciting. It's like 1994 all over again.
Yeah. So sorry, go ahead. What is Sonic Boom?
Well, we don't need to discuss this at any great length.
If it's interesting.
But it's a platformer with Sonic and his new friends. They've redesigned Sonic and his new friends.
Yep. Anyway.
Oh, new shitty
His
friends.
legs are longer than ever before.
They are. They really are.
His friends are creepy as fuck. Knuckles gets creepier and creepier.
Every time.
Knuckles is now, like, from his feet to his head, he's like a pizza that you're standing on point. Like, Knuckles, have you seen drawings of Knuckles? Like, I think that they thought that he had too similar a silhouette to Sonic the Hedgehog at some point. So someone's like, make him fucking ripped. Like, Knuckles is fucking yoked. Like, he has, like, the same legs as all the other characters, and then he just, like, scales up wider and wider until he just stops at these two square shoulders, and then there's like a sort of like hunched down fat Knuckles head. Like his arms are huge, his chest, like it's just like where they're just like the ideal proportions for a man are a triangle shape, and they're like, okay, draw a triangle, now carve Knuckles out of that and make him look kind of less aware of the world than he did before. Like give him a slightly denser face.
Describing this, I can only the only way I can picture this is as either a like DeviantArt pencil drawing by like a 13-year-old who likes anime, or a
not inaccurate,
or a thick outlined Newgrounds Flash comic where he also has like big lips and individually defined teeth.
Whoa.
You know the like Newgrounds house style of like sort of Ren and Stimpy grotesque
meets Flash default.
Flash like line art. Yeah. I can't imagine what you're describing in like official video game key art style.
That's okay. It's good. It's good that we just leave it at that. We don't need to look up. Don't look it up. Just leave it. Leave it up to the imagination, Chris. You can look it up after the cast.
I will not look it up. Ever.
I just have to say, I feel like
it sounds terrifying.
This comes from the way superheroes are now proportioned, like the way that like men in superhero movies
up like Chris Pratt in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, they cut out sugar. They made him go to the gym every day. They gave him, some nice supplements. Like it feels like that's what happened. It feels like marketing towards little boys, which is presumably what they're doing. It's like the Iron Man thing or the look like Captain America thing. Look at how beefy he is now. He's the badass.
Like you could buy a Knuckles Halloween costume that has stitched in six-pack. No way, because Knuckles
I feel like
not.
That's a thing.
The thing about this though is that Knuckles' his new character design is not. He has no definition.
Yeah, he just looks big.
Large. He's just like fucking weird looking.
Are you weird? God, weird.
It's really strange.
Oh, I can't find a drawing of it. Did I dream this?
I hope.
No,
I hope so.
he does look creepier with every iteration. It's totally.
No, they had a
true.
statue of him at PAX, and I was just like, "What is that? Oh, it's Knuckles."
Hello,
okay,
Knuckles.
Well, that's.
Hello, Knuckles, my old friend.
You're looking fucking beefy, or like
something.
You fell into a very specifically shaped version of like the cartoon Car Cuber.
Oh my god.
Okay, that's I guess
Knuckles.
Probably enough talking about Knuckles the echidna.
Okay, what were you actually going to say?
Oh, yes.
Is there really anything to say?
Well, not really, but I do want to tell you about one more 3DS game.
Go for it.
Okay.
It's actually really good, but it also has insane character designs. It's called Codename S.T.E.A.M.
Wasn't this announced like a million years ago?
It may have been, but they just started showing stuff off. Oh my god, are you looking at a Knuckles picture?
I just had to check. I had to look up Knuckles Sonic Boom, and I am not incorrect. Okay, go ahead.
No, it's really
I gotta see
interesting.
It now.
You can see it later.
All right.
All right, so Codename S.T.E.A.M. is a turn-based strategy game. It's by Intelligent Systems. They made the Advance Wars games and the Fire Emblem
Codename
games.
Steam?
Yes.
Nintendo's project.
They're having some trouble this
They are
month.
terrible with no. Nintendo is awful at naming things that are not like that don't fit very cleanly into Nintendo's existing wheelhouse. Like remember that game Project Hammer that was canceled eventually? That it was supposed to be like a big Wii showcase title, big action game where you have a big hammer that you swing around. It never came out. But like I always get the idea that the sense that Nintendo names these games like this because it is so far outside their comfort zone that it's like this is the action game with a hammer. We have to name it something that makes it very clear that this is like an action game. It's not a normal Nintendo thing. Project Steam, but it's like a steampunk thing, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like this it has to be clear that this appeals to people who like steampunk because we can't just like Pikmin. That doesn't say anything about what the thing is.
Chibi Robo.
It's entirely like confident that the audience will determine what it is based on what it looks like and based on what's in it and so on, blah, 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 blah. Halo, right? Like Halo doesn't mean anything about, it's not called like Gun Saga or something. Yeah. Like, I mean, maybe it should be. I don't know. But I guess they did call it Combat Evolved. But Nintendo has this hilarious, like really stilted way of naming things that aren't obvious Nintendo properties in a way that I find quaint and hilarious.
Or they buy a French development studio and name it Nerd.
Yes.
What is it? Nintendo European Research and Development?
So good.
Here we are at Team Nerd. We had a real name before this. What were they called? They were just, it was like just, Micro something.
It was like a very European thing where it was like a portmanteau of two words that included like cis or something. But yeah, their website is nerd.nintendo.com.
So delightful.
Cool. It's a really boring website for a URL
You can learn all about it, though, in the video Iwata Asks Nerd.
Oh, God.
Sorry, anyway, we're talking about...
I hope they release Iwata Asks Nerds soon.
Oh, that would be fun.
I would eat them.
I want him to. I would eat them. Iwata, cannibal for nerds.
No,
Anyway,
the candy.
He means the candy.
I know.
Iwata asks
I know.
nerds rope. Codename S.T.E.A.M.
It has
the upcoming game.
It has character designs or character concepts that are like possibly as insane as the Knuckles stuff. Like so it's basically turn-based strategy.
Except without the decades of like accretion.
It's true.
Of
they're brand
weird
new
mutation. Yeah.
Although there are decades of weird mutation in a way because all the characters are taken out of like American folklore. Like John Henry is one of the characters. Hiawatha is one of the characters.
Wow.
Tom Sawyer is in there. There's a lion named Lion. It's like completely.
What is that a reference to?
I don't know on that one. To be quite honest,
John Henry, Hiawatha, Lion.
Lion. Also, there's steampunk Abraham Lincoln who gives you directives. It's completely wacky. Like the actual story content is nuts.
Does this feel like a runaway train version of What Do Americans Like?
Potentially.
Right, where was this game made? Was it made in America or a continent whose name includes America?
So. Yeah, I don't think so. I really don't think so. Intelligent Systems is
of course. Intelligent Systems is
it's one of Nintendo's basically in-house
first party studio.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you do in this game besides be completely baffled?
Yeah. Okay, so you take your turns. You have your 5 characters that you pick, at the outset of each mission. It's all on a grid, and you are, of course, battling aliens. And steampunk Abraham Lincoln gives you your orders in every level. That's the premise. But the actual gameplay,
like tactical.
It is the actual gameplay.
All right, because it's by the Advance Wars
exactly.
people.
It's really good and interesting.
This game would have blown up Kickstarter 2 years ago.
It would have. It definitely would have. You take your turns. Each character has a turn. You have a certain amount of steam power, which is basically your moves or your ability to attack.
In Japan, this game is subtitled Lincoln versus Aliens.
Wait, it's called Codename S.T.E.A.M. Lincoln versus Aliens?
Yes. Yes.
Well.
Rinken Basasu Aryan.
Wow.
Oh, Lincoln versus Aryans.
Oh.
Gamergate.
Might as well be. Might as well be.
Sorry, Danielle.
It's okay.
This whole thing is too outrageous for me.
It is outrageous. What I can't believe about it is how tactically sound it feels, and it actually feels really tight, and the gameplay is really fun.
Because Intelligent Systems is great with really streamlined tactical systems.
Yeah. So playing it was actually really, really fun. It just has this fiction that's
something.
Yeah, it's something. It's really something.
Is it what? Is it tongue in cheek? Is it?
Is
it like taking itself seriously?
It's tongue in cheek. Definitely.
Is it tongue in cheek and so it's not like Tim and Eric style, right? Because I feel if this,
I don't think Nintendo is capable of that.
I don't think
they are either. I'm just wondering if the localization team shot for that, right?
Because sometimes like the WarioWare style stuff, you could see.
Sometimes Nintendo's Treehouse localization team gets a little cheeky in a way that I assume the Japanese version was less so.
It's pretty cheeky. It's cheeky. It's tongue in cheek. It's very light.
But probably cheeky in a very good-natured way, though, right?
Yeah.
Not okay.
It doesn't seem Tim and Eric at all. It's like, look at this goofy thing. Here's your goofy thing.
Because you could imagine a game with basically identical mechanics and an identical theme being made by a North American indie team, and probably the way that they
Well, the cutscenes would look like a Behemoth game or something, right?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah.
But alternatively, you could have the version of this that is so contextually divorced from what it's doing that you basically get the anime version of a Blizzard opening cutscene for this.
That's what I was trying to get
where Lincoln, either normal-sized Lincoln or Lincoln Monument-sized Lincoln, summons up these characters out of the earth, and they have glowing, stupid lightning bear anime eyes and stuff.
Right, and it's there's never any moment where it's not intended to just be totally cool.
This is just the most epic thing in the world. Right. Lion.
Yeah. Lion named Lion.
Yeah.
And Lion can launch himself all over the place. That's his special ability.
Like a rocket.
That's also his catchphrase.
He actually cannonballs himself.
Lion launch.
Lion launch. He cannonballs himself. He jumps and does one of these. Good radio.
Odama is a Nintendo game that is completely bananas.
Yes.
It sort of it aesthetically presents itself.
But that was developed by the guy who made
sober.
Seaman.
That's true. That's true.
Anyway, this is really fun, at least from what I've played. It's coming in spring, I think,
what is
next
this, 3DS
year.
game?
3DS game, yeah. I think I'm going to enjoy it a lot. It's just I don't quite know how I feel about sort of the narrative itself. I mean,
It doesn't feel like you have to feel a whole lot about it.
You probably don't.
Yeah, you probably don't. I don't ever.
It's gonna be fun no matter
really
what,
pay
so.
attention to anything going on in
It's
Advance
really
Wars
tasteful.
or even really Fire Emblem.
That's
I know a lot of people really like the Fire Emblem
They do,
story,
yeah.
and
Some
that's
people
fine.
get into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is controversial and a little tasteless when your team loses. And Lincoln is, well...
Oops. Yeah.
Who is the bad guy in this?
Aliens.
The aliens.
Oh, right, of course.
And
It's
they
Lincoln
look
versus
like
aliens. What am I talking about?
They look like Starship Troopers aliens. They're all bug-looking
right.
creatures.
They're bugs.
They're bugs.
Of course they are.
At least they are in the earlier stages. That
I was
played.
really hoping that it would be the sort of
Little green
XCOM
men.
classic guys. Yeah, or like little sort of blobby brains like guys. Or
Yeah.
something.
I guess if you are making a game with like Lincoln teaming up with Hiawatha and a lion, the aliens should probably be little green men.
Yeah, just
Like they
Kind
should.
of true, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe they come later. They're controlling the bugs or something. I don't know. That's my fan fiction. Check it out on my Tumblr.
Yeah, the aliens are probably all being controlled by another Lincoln, by like Dark Lincoln.
Oh,
Dark,
yeah.
Dark
Shadow
Lincoln.
Lincoln.
God, they're
Oh man, it's like Lincoln.
oh,
Shadow.
Jake,
The Shadow Lincoln.
you're fired.
We're all fired.
Jake especially is fired.
Link is in Mario Kart now. I also played
He
that.
is? What did they put out a patch?
Wait a minute, this
Oh,
is okay.
in 2 days. Sorry, today on the podcast is the 11th, right?
Man,
Yeah.
I'm
In
sure
2
this
days.
is like a normal thing now, but the concept to me of Nintendo releasing content through the internet to your game
It's
seamlessly, it's something that I would never have. I mean, I know there's no reason they couldn't do it, obviously, because they're a company that exists in 2014.
Right.
But like you saying that sent my brain into shock
right?
for a moment. I'm like, how could a Nintendo game have a thing in it now that wasn't in it yesterday?
Did they
How could
mail
that
you a
ever-
cartridge?
Like, can't you get like Mercedes-Benz or BMWs in Mario Kart and all sorts of stupid crap
Oh, that's
like
right.
that?
I forgot about
Okay,
that.
so go ahead.
I was going to say the new cars are actually really cool because Link has a master cycle, which is his own little motorcycle.
Is that cool?
It's kind of
Okay,
cool.
so Lincoln, all these things being
Yes.
kind of the same. I feel like we might collectively have talked Nintendo into the dirt this week, but I do have to say that with Codename S.T.E.A.M being an official Nintendo first-party game, this means that the next Super Smash Bros. Game,
Oh,
a new
man.
challenger enters the arena.
Oh my God.
President Abraham Lincoln.
Accompanied by Lion.
Right. Oh, and they got Lion in it now too? But man, just the like fighting Lincoln team. Like you could just have like
Right.
Oh
I mean,
my
that
god.
sounds great. Maybe it'll be DLC, like we're talking about.
I hope they save it. I hope they tease that one out.
Yeah.
New playable
Yeah.
character, Nintendo first party character, Abraham
Steam
Lincoln.
Oof.
I mean, I would play it.
Me too.
You know,
The problem is everyone
You can
would
costume
for a
swap him
while.
to the Uncle
Yes.
Sam costume or to like Wario colors.
Perfect. It's perfect.
They could also have Wa Lincoln.
Waluigi.
That already exists. It's just Lincoln. Man, Lincoln and
What?
Waluigi as
What
a
do you mean
team.
that while Lincoln already exists, it's just Lincoln? What does that mean?
I mean, Lincoln has already
Is this like some horrible like Lincoln?
No, I mean-
while Lincoln already exists,
Lincoln
just
was already
okay,
there.
sorry.
War of Northern Aggression.
What I mean, okay, I'm sorry. I mean, if we think about the aesthetic and sort of move makeup of Super Smash Brothers characters, the character that Lincoln would most likely be, were they not going to give him his own moveset, from pure art swap standpoint, based on Lincoln's proportions as he's historically represented, is Waluigi.
It's true.
Lincoln would just be a Waluigi clone.
That's what you're saying.
And the hat's not too far off.
Right,
You know?
he's on his way.
Yeah.
But
You
now,
just get rid of Waluigi and replace it with Walu Lincoln.
no, fuck that team battle. Giant
battle, you want them
Waluigi, giant Lincoln.
I can see the appeal.
Yeah, take on Metal Mario.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's all canon, so, you know, it's fine.
Also, Abraham Lincoln and Waluigi at the Olympic Games, I'd also be fine. And Knuckles, fine. And Sonic Boom Knuckles.
Wait, Knuckles gets kicked out for roiding up at the Olympics, so, you know, it's all done.
Yeah.
It's all downhill.
You guys want to stop talking for a minute and take a break?
Sure.
Or
What?
I don't know. I got nothing.
It's all good.
Got to give me another option, Jake. Don't know what my choices are.
Yeah. Are we doing Walu Lincoln or Lincoln?
We'll be right back.
Video games.
We'd like to thank our sponsor, Squarespace.
An all-in-one platform for building your very own website, portfolio, or online store. Squarespace just released the latest version of their site, Squarespace 7. Redesigned, still easy to use, still really great. We are big fans. And if you go to squarespace.com and enter the promo code THUMBS at checkout, you will get 10% off your first order. As you know, we often feature reader-made Squarespace sites here in our podcast, and we got an email from Daniel Hines, who's writing in about his friend's game, Desync, which at his suggestion was built using Squarespace. You can see that at desync-game.com. I was just checking it out. It's a really slick video game, website about this video game. It works great on mobile, really clean, easy to use. And you can get your own such snazzy website at squarespace.com using the promo code THUMBS for 10% off. We like it. We think you will too. It is super easy to use, and you can make basically any kind of website with it.
Video games.
We'd also like to thank Hulu Plus for sponsoring us this week. Hulu Plus is a television streaming service. It's
on the internet.
On the internet. It's... as you guys probably know, Hulu, sort of the containing site for this, is a website that streams a ton of television shows, movies, whatnot. Hulu Plus is the sort of upgraded service that allows you to stream on mobile devices, set-top boxes, all sorts of stuff.
With a bigger archive.
A bigger amount of content.
Criterion Collection, full back catalogs of TV shows.
Yep. And if you go to huluplus.com/thumbs and sign up there, you'll get a free trial, which is 2 weeks long instead of the usual 1 week.
Mm-hmm.
As you probably know, because we talk about it every week, Chris and I have started a Twin Peaks rewatch podcast where once a week we're discussing an episode of the TV show Twin Peaks. The entire run of Twin Peaks is on Hulu Plus, so if you want, you can watch it there, and you can start now. We're actually just on episode 5 of the podcast, so that 2 week trial is plenty of time to catch up on that great show. So go to huluplus.com/thumbs and watch Twin Peaks and listen to us talk about it.
And lots of other shows.
And watch a million other things. There's like everything you could ever want on there.
Thanks, Hulu Plus.
Yep. Mostly Twin Peaks, though. TwinPeaksRewatch.com.
Video games.
You can talk about your favorite video game, though.
My favorite video game?
Well, I mean, that you've played and haven't talked about.
Oh, my favorite game that I've played that I haven't talked about is probably Costume Quest 2.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa.
Talk about that.
I really like it. It's really fun. I started playing it on Halloween, which felt, appropriate, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I had just finished Alien Isolation, and I wanted something else seasonally appropriate, get me in the mood.
Sure.
I had a adorable child trick-or-treat on Halloween. I had Phil Kohler's son, Sammy. He was dressed up as a superhero. He was very cute.
What kind of superhero?
I think his name was Super Chub, was the name.
So this is a made-up superhero?
Yes, it was a made-up superhero. Yes. Sammy was Super Chub.
That is awesome.
It was pretty great. He's a very cute child, so, that was nice. And then I played Costume Quest 2, which is just like the first Costume Quest in that it is a very light, very colorful, very cute JRPG. Well, JRPG meaning just sort of the style. It's not actually made in Japan, obviously. It's Double Fine.
But turn-based combat.
Yeah, turn-based combat. You level up.
Attacks.
Yeah, exactly. But it's, it's adorable. It's a really cute game. It's purposely cute. The writing is good. It's about little kids who are, dressing in their costumes for Halloween and getting the powers from those costumes to combat monsters and such things. This game has time travel in it. The story is all wacky and all over the place, which is totally fine. It suits this game. It's not, I wouldn't call it, a masterpiece of the genre, but I would call it a really fun small game that was perfect for Halloween. It was a lovely little confection for Halloween.
Food metaphors continue.
Yes, it was a sweet treat.
I like that game has a candy corn costume whose whole function is to do nothing.
It's to be useless.
You just can't do anything when you have it on.
I think you get an achievement if you, so basically you have 3 party members, and if you leave one of them in the candy corn costume who's just useless, like pretty much the entire time, you get an achievement for doing that, for like having candy corn
for basically just beating
through.
the game with 2 characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Which is kind of wonderful.
That's good.
Yeah, it's really
Was that a thing in the first game as well?
Candy? No.
Yeah.
Well, it was, but you couldn't use it mechanically. Like, the whole joke in the first game, the whole setup, you're playing as these 2 twins, and one of them has the crappy costume. Whoever you're not playing as, the twin you're not playing as, the boy or the girl, they're in a candy corn costume, and they get kidnapped by the monsters who mistake them for being candy.
Right. I forgot about that.
So it's like, it's a little dumb thing in the story, but it's not like a mechanical.
But
it's not an actual.
In the sequel, the candy corn can actually fight, but it's just as useless as it was. Right. The candy corn can enter fights.
It goes into the fights,
yeah. Sit there.
And there's like, every time it's the candy corn's turn, there's like a different text message plays, like, candy corn is stoic. Candy corn is thinking about their options. Like, just goofy little things.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's really funny.
It's really, really funny little thing.
The little bit you mentioned about the original costume quest for whichever character you are not just has the crappy costume, yes. To me is such a hilarious gag. Like, that's a really good, really subtle, just funny little way to play with choice in games. Like, I was reading Kirk Hamilton's
Speaking of delicious dish.
Speaking of a delicious dish, indeed.
Totally.
Noted delicious dish, Kirk Hamilton.
Kotaku's Kirk Hamilton.
Yes. He wrote a thing that was like 11 things you need to know about Dragon Age Inquisition. And it made me really want to play Dragon Age Inquisition, which I assume was the point of it, because it seemed like Kirk liked it a lot. He had one point that kind of annoyed me a little bit. But I don't mind saying so, because whatever, Kirk can take it.
Friend of the show.
Yes.
He said, unclear how much your choices matter, right? He's like, there were times where I like killed this person, but like it wasn't clear like if it mattered, and by mattered he meant branched the narrative,
right?
And I was like, well, I don't know if that
branched the narrative in a long-term way that does not fold back in on itself until it has affected something else.
Which, like, I don't know, in your version of the game, that person died. Like, does that not matter?
Exactly,
like, I don't know if something has to like cause a butterfly effect ripple to matter. Like, a lot of things happen to people in life that just are totally self-contained, but they still matter. Anyway, that's a very small quibble, and I don't mean to like nitpick Kirk, because his article had a lot of good, like, cool, enticing information about the game in it that I was pleased to read. But I only bring it up relative to the costume quest thing because I love the idea that there's just this. The game is 100% the same mechanically in every single respect, but it sort of just has this tiny little concession to, oh, you're the cool one.
Yeah,
in just like a
really
totally
great.
meaningless, funny little way. That I think is great.
The game is full of those little just touches that, which is what part of why it's so endearing to me. Even though it's like a fairly light game, it's very, I don't know, I really cared about these little characters and I really cared about their little quirks and things like that. So
it's funny, the killing a character thing and having that branch out and doing all sorts of crazy stuff to the story as sort of the classic definition of choice mattering, because I suspect were a character to be killed who maybe someone else could have died in their place, or no one could have died. But if that character is killed, and then just like 2 hours later, after a big fat fight, one of the other characters in your party is just like, man, I really miss that guy.
Yeah.
That's all you actually need. And you're like, oh my God.
True.
Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, then you immediately back and forward, your mental map of that character is different because you're like, oh man, they must have been really broken up by this. Like, that's all that you actually need, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's the tiny effort.
Or like,
for each
payoff. That's not all that you need. That's not the go-to key, but it's like you can have stuff like that.
On that scale.
Yeah, it can just like ripple out in a huge way.
If you believe it, yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, if you believe it. I mean, yes.
No, I'm just saying my point is that a small moment like that you believe, to me, is just as effective as like some grand thing that is actually equally arbitrary.
But then, I guess I don't want to chase this down forever by just like devil's advocate and nitpicking myself to death, but I imagine that often a person who will complain that a character's death doesn't impact the story would then potentially be playing the game from the attitude of someone who, if a character said, I really miss that person, they'd be like, why isn't their morale going down? Why isn't their effectiveness in combat reduced?
Yeah.
What change is this having? And if it's having those changes, I should have not killed them, because then it's gonna, that can just spin out into hell immediately.
Into grognard hell.
Yeah. But
yeah, it's true.
Sorry I brought it up. I talked myself into being stupid and ruining the game.
That's all right. That's cool.
I'm not playing Dragon Age now.
I'm done. Just close the
God,
book.
if characters are just sad like that. When someone dies, they just say I'm sad, like they said on Idle Thumbs, and it doesn't even impact their stats.
God, what a hipster thing to think.
I would like a game like that.
I want to briefly mention the least hipster game I've ever played in my life, which I'm enjoying.
Which is
Call of Duty Advanced Warfare.
Oh yeah,
Believe it or not.
Really, what is so? I
Coda.
have over the years,
Coda.
my sort of awareness of Call of Duty games, it is at like an all-time low, I will say,
Sure,
right? Like,
yeah.
I know that there's a game called. I'm so unaware of this that when I made like some stupid throwaway joke tweet about Call of Duty that I don't even remember at this point, I called it Call of Duty Advanced Warfighter because I got it
Because of
confused
Graw. You
with-
got
It could
Coda
have been,
confused
yeah,
with Graw.
exactly.
yeah.
Totally.
There's Graw, there's Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter, but then there was also like Battlefield Warfighter or something.
Oh.
Wasn't there like
There have been
another one? That's
so
like
many
a word that I've
Battlefields.
only ever heard. I'm sure it's used in military jargon also, but like I've only ever heard it in video games
Yeah.
ever. I can't remember what my tweet was about. Oh, I know what it was.
Warfighter.
It was an ad from Target where if you buy Call of Duty
yes.
Advanced Warfare, you get like a bag of Doritos.
Yep. For free.
It's too
Get your
perfect.
Doritos. Oh,
Oh,
I know.
I can't believe that it at this point Mountain Dew and Doritos have truly
They actually
become
just-
the
it's-
fullest version of their parody selves on like Twitter.
Right.
Oh, it's totally
It's
true.
interesting also in the way that, like, this is not interesting, but I'll continue to talk. Idle Thumbs podcast. Like, in the first .com bubble, you got, like, Webvan and Peapod and all those little startups who were like,
Yeah.
you know what we're going to do? We're going to fill in this little niche. And then Safeway and Walmart were like, we actually already have stores and delivery trucks, so we can just do that and you're destroyed.
Yes.
In the style of like 10 years ago, it's like, you know what, maybe gamer grabbing balls are just going to be, man, that's a sentence that you just, like, combine those brands. But, like all those companies showed up like, you know what, maybe we're going to just be the food for gamers. We're this gross snacks that kind of are like highly sugared and caffeinated. And then Pepsi was like, we actually really already just do that. But like we have
But global
exponentially
distribution
more.
Yeah,
So
and infinite marketing money.
So-
We'll just do that
it's
instead.
interesting. I see the niche you're trying to carve out there. Double XP weekend
Yeah.
forever. Like free, like that's the stupidest analogy to make. Sorry, but
No,
like
it's
that is
completely
what I
accurate.
think about. I think
Yeah.
about like Peapod and Webvan, but instead I think about how there's a kiosk apparently right now where you can test Doritos flavored Mountain Dew.
Oh God, I heard about that. That sin against humanity that
Yeah.
it is. Oh, so
That has nothing to do with advanced
Advanced
warfare,
Or does it have
Warfare.
everything to do with it?
or it's
I am struggling with exactly how I feel about this game, other than the fact that I'm enjoying it
Are
a
you
lot
playing
more than I
single player or
thought.
multiplayer?
I'm playing single player.
Okay.
And later tonight, I'm trying multiplayer, which will be a shit show, I'm sure. It actually is occupying some of the same space for me as, not quite to this degree, but some of the same space as the new Wolfenstein game, where it was like completely off my radar,
Yeah.
whatever
Oh, yeah,
game, whatever, Broman McShootface.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm playing it and I'm like, well, there's something here. Like,
Okay.
it's
What is there?
what is there is the fact that this is a really well-paced, ridiculous action sort of roller coaster
Okay.
that actually has some quiet moments that are surprisingly effective for me.
All right.
So, I'm sort of in the middle of the game, so spoilers in case you're super sensitive about the story and, whatever.
I am not.
well, it starts with
This
Kevin
game.
Spacey at a funeral giving you a robot arm.
Yes, giving
So-
you a robot arm and telling you press X to
Oof,
pay
that was-
respect.
That was pretty bad.
Yeah, we've already
Yep.
seen that. So
Yeah, okay.
what
Go ahead.
what that means though is
It only
you're-
goes somewhere further from there,
that
basically.
line, the trajectory of press button for to pay respects to robot arm, the arc that creates punches out of the stratosphere pretty fucking fast,
Yep.
I imagine.
Yep.
Okay.
And then it goes to some somewhat interesting planets. So there is a level in Detroit, in like a future Detroit. The whole
Finds a
thing is 50
habitable
years
world.
in the future. And there's actually some
It goes to
interesting
Detroit
meat there.
7.
Yes, Detroit 7. Detroit 7 is on Earth too. There's a section you're sort of walking through. Detroit is a horribly depressed place in this future. All of America is
Okay. In this alternate reality.
in this
reality, Detroit has
crazy
fallen and it
game.
sucks.
Yeah, it's a little on the nose, but yes, you're walking around and there's sort of some environmental storytelling, and I kind of got excited. So someone is making dumb video game graffiti at TM. You know how every issue of somebody's making it, and it's just about, So
does it say thanks Obama?
Oh God, if only. That would have been just the icing on the cake.
Thanks, Obama, too.
You're in this private military corporation that has taken over more or less for the military in the United States. And, somebody is disparaging it on public property, whatever, Atlas sucks or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And a soldier actually finds the guy and he runs after him. And there's a chase. And so this guy who's making this graffiti runs away. Soldier chases him. And I tried to follow them because that's interesting to me. That's sort of an interesting moment. Of course, it doesn't let you actually follow. I was a little sad about that. But the next section of the game is almost stealth light, and you're in this abandoned building, and it felt so much like The Last of Us that I was like, okay, this is interesting. You're watching for beams of light. People are in hazmat suits, and you're sort of in this creepy abandoned building. And I was like, okay, this is Call of Duty sort of weirdly aping the movements of another kind of game. Sure. And it does it with some subtlety. I actually sort of enjoyed that section of the game, and I was like, okay, this is cool. There's some variation here. Yeah. Then you're shooting a bunch of guys' faces again, and then there are sections that feel like a modern James Bond movie. Like it's set in Greece, and it's sun drenched, and it's beautiful. And there's this woman soldier who's with you, who's more of a badass than you are, and this whole chase ensues, and there's all sorts of crazy things. But it actually felt like this sort of energy of playing a modern Bond. Like you're using a drone to spy on, whatever, some high-powered military dude. And you have to use that drone to get rid of some other soldiers on this site. So there's actually other gameplay beats, which I wasn't expecting. I was just sort of expecting shoot a bunch of guys, get a bunch of stories, shoot a bunch of guys, get a bunch of stories. How many
Call of Duty campaigns, how often do you play these?
Not often.
Okay.
I think the last one I played was probably
Modern Warfare?
Modern Warfare 2.
Okay.
I think. So 2011, 2012. It's been a couple of years. I usually dip in at least a little bit to most of them. Mm-hmm. But I haven't gone through all the way through since then.
I've heard a lot of people are actually really into the multiplayer in this game.
Yeah, I'm at least checking it out. But yeah.
I haven't heard a lot of people talk about it now, but I'm not going to play a Call of Duty game, whatever.
Sure, that's fine.
I think I don't have a console that I'd want to play it on at this point.
Sure,
I don't. Is it even on PC?
I'm playing it on PS4. Okay. I'm assuming it is.
But the number of people who were sort of pleasantly surprised by the multiplayer in sort of the first 48-hour window was really surprising to me.
Yeah,
a lot of people were like, "Oh."
Staggered by it a little bit because the last one wasn't very good, if I recall correctly. I didn't play much of the last one, Ghosts or whatever, but
it is on PC.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I was sort of pleasantly surprised by this game being better than I thought it would be. And in a way, I was sort of thinking about this, and it was like, for the type of gamer who only plays 2 games a year, it's Madden and the Call of Duty or whatever it is, they're getting something out of this that maybe they wouldn't play The Last of Us. Maybe they wouldn't play something else. But they're getting that little piece of this in it. And I actually sort of was heartened by that. I was like, all right, they're at least going out a little tiny bit.
No, that's good.
out of their comfort zone,
The more I like when any game, but especially when an established series will do that, not only because it allows that series itself to grow, but because people who play those games religiously might end up that weird branch off ends up that branch plants a seed in their brain that might then lead you to seek something else out. And that doesn't always have to be in Call of Duty. That can be in any series or in any medium. But when that happens, you're like, that part that I really liked was the part that's weird and different from all these things. And then your friend says, oh, well, then what you would actually like is this thing that you would never experience.
Totally.
I'm like, that's always good.
That's all I could think about when I was in that sort of Last of Us light section. I was like, maybe somebody's never played a horror game.
All I could think about when playing this Call of Duty game is that maybe someone who plays Call of Duty would play the #1 original IP of last year.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's
the #1 non-sequel AAA game of 2013.
And how crazy is that, though, that that still would probably be considered niche to a person who literally only plays Call of Duty or something.
I think that game was pretty huge.
It certainly was. I just felt like it was a step out of the Call of Duty comfort zone in some ways.
Sure.
So for somebody out there, it's a step out of their comfort zone, and that's delightful.
Maybe when people are playing The Last of Us, I forget where I was going to go with that.
They'll think about playing Gone Home. I don't know.
Maybe when they're playing
Maybe
this,
they will.
maybe when they're playing this game about like a super ripped human male, they'll be like, what if this was a super ripped echidna? And then they'll play a new game featuring Knuckles.
A super ripped, tiny legged man.
Well, they'll look at that bag of free cool or nacho cheese Doritos, and they'll hold one of them up, and they won't have their glasses on, and they're like, I find this shape pleasing, and I'm playing a video game. Can I combine the shape of this Dorito and a video game? And then they accidentally they slip because of the gross dust on their hand and press the store button on their controller, or they, because game controllers, they have that these days. I guess.
I would imagine.
Well, it's the home button. What? Shut up. And the featured product is then
Sonic Boom.
Is in fact Sonic Boom, and then their eyes rack as they're looking at the Dorito, and then their eyes rack focus past it. And and then they sort of move the out of focus shape just slightly out of the way, and it's as if nothing has changed.
Except now it has eyes.
Except now it has eyes and legs and dreads.
Now it just has two enormous dreads for some reason.
Yeah,
I think there's more back there.
Yeah.
Oh, I need to play it just so I know.
Knuckles, man, we're talking about Knuckles a lot, but he's also he's drifting also in shape into the Predator.
He
That's
so
true,
is.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Alien Isolation sequel, Alien versus Predator.
But you
Knuckles.
can then lock in the Knuckles cartridge.
Exactly. And it's Knuckles chasing you through the vents in every
Yeah,
one of
that's
those
fine.
things.
Still also just water is pouring out of his mouth continuously.
It's just always moist.
He's sort of just breathing, kind of like there's something kind of caught in his throat and nose all the time, like Michael Myers style.
And the distraction item is a bag of Doritos. You can throw it at him and he's like, oh, there's other Knuckles here.
He's like, throw up. What? I thought I was alone.
No, it doesn't work. That's like throwing the flare at the T-Rex in Jurassic Park. He'll just kind of look at it and then fucking eat you.
True.
And then he's mad. I don't look like
Classic stalking villains pack for Alien Isolation would be fine.
that would be cool.
Classic stalking villains.
Just also
Velociraptors, T-Rex.
or just villains which have been in space.
Okay.
like
Probably
Freddy.
Probably Predator. I don't know if Freddy has. Jason has been in space.
That's what I'm thinking of.
The Leprechaun has also been in space.
The dinosaurs from Dino Crisis 2 were in space.
Right.
You can get your dinosaurs.
Any otherwise just sort of stupid villain who is made more stupid by being sequelized to the point that they go into space
Right.
is available in DLC for Alien Isolation.
I'd be okay with that.
Seems fine.
Yeah.
And Jason X.
Jason X.
Sorry, I don't know.
do
That was one
Jason
of those,
versus Knuckles?
Jason X was one of those perpetual video store presences when I was growing up.
For me it was Leprechaun 4 in space.
Oh, really? For me, it was Jason X, definitely.
Oh, and I think Leprechaun 3 was in the hood, and then I think Leprechaun
Yeah.
5 is back in the hood.
Yeah, they definitely go to the hood
Go
and then
into the
space,
hood,
and then
then
back to
space,
the
then back to the hood.
That's the thing that happens.
So the Leprechaun is available as DLC in Alien Isolation and Grand Theft Auto 5.
Perfect.
Fucking
Perfect.
first-person Grand Theft Auto 5 is blowing my mind perpetually.
Oh, yeah.
It's obviously not out, but that stupid trailer. Did you see that stuff, Chris?
It's pretty amazing.
You're looking at Reader Mail, probably.
I am looking at it.
Did you see the GTA 5 on PC is going to be first-person?
Oh, yeah, I did see that. Well, it's not that it's going to be
cool.
first
It
person, right?
supports
It's a mode.
first-person as a complete mode, though.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's not a whole lot to say. Watch the
No,
video.
that's amazing. I
All
mean,
that shit
I
of
think
people
they're
are gonna
releasing
love
that
it.
mode for PS4 and
Yes.
Xbox One as well.
It's all sort of the, up-resed higher fidelity ports.
Yeah, but
I
it must have required a huge amount of additional design work and,
It feels to me like
and asset creation.
I mean, this
It's
is
crazy.
total speculation, just walking off a cliff, and could entirely be wrong.
Yeah.
But it feels like the sort of thing that was at one point a pillar of the game that got cut.
Ooh.
Like that's my guess,
Right.
right? Because how do you build a world where all of your art assets are of the right proportions to look good in first person, but it's a third person game that you
Yeah.
can you could not port Vice City to first person; it would look right? Wouldn't all the
People, I
doors
bet-
and stuff
well,
just be
people
huge?
have probably done that on PC
But the
in a
GTA
really simple way.
Right. The world of GTA 5 just looks perfect in first person, though. They had shots
No, it looks great.
of the opening mission and the
I bet
freezers
that's
and
less
the
of a problem
stuff.
than in some games because they're modeling a huge city at somewhat
I guess it
believable
has
scale.
to be real scale.
If you're designing
person.
like a God of War game or something, and everything is weirdly composed for these like certain angles, is a different thing. But I bet in GTA in a GTA game, that's less of an issue.
No, that's true.
Sure.
This actually makes me interested in GTA 5 in a way that I was zero interested in it before. Not that I was like strenuously
games of this style just don't exist in the first person space, though.
Yeah.
And I feel like the last couple GTA games, I'm like, all right,
or
cool,
if they do,
but like
they're
I
a
get it,
Battlefield.
like I get it, but this is a totally different way of interacting with the world. Like, it feels totally different to be inside a huge city through the eyes of the character, and not that one's better than the other, but it's just a very different feeling.
Yep.
I'm really interested.
Yeah,
in that.
the video it looks like there's my postulation that it was a cut early feature of the game. The other option is that either Rockstar North or an entire Rockstar studio was just put on this in the intervening time between release and now. But because just like every car has a dash, every weapon has weapon animations, all of the movement looks incredibly nice. You can still just get in a helicopter, fly it up into the middle of nowhere, and jump out. I mean, like, that's stuff that happens in Just Cause or in a Battlefield game or a Far Cry, but those are all games that are built from the ground up to be that, whereas this is like, we're just going to put this inside of our gangster mafia third person
giant open world,
person open world. Like, it's just
it's crazy.
It's one of those things that seems like, oh, well, can't you just put the camera inside of the head if you're a person who is any normal human being on Earth?
Sure.
But then when you look at the amount of detail in that trailer, it's just gross.
Oh, yeah.
It really makes me want to play GTA 5.
Yeah, when they announced it, I kind of assumed it was going to be closer to the just put the camera in there because it's a game that already came out.
Right, but then it's
but then you see the trailer and it's not at all.
Rockstar is so good at those trailers. I mean, people always make fun of them because they're incredibly cheesy. This one doesn't have the narrator, right? Because they usually have in Grand Theft Auto 5, you can switch between three playable protagonists. But it had the same effect in this case of just like, we're confident enough in just the game on its own terms that here is just a bunch of footage of a million things happening in a presentational style that you have not seen them before.
Yeah.
Just like, anyway, you're in a helicopter, you're in a plane, you're in a different plane, you're in a different car, you're in a motorcycle, you're in a different motorcycle, you have different guns, you're outside, you're inside, you're in a corridor, you're inside of a mission, you're in an open world. It just all works.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows in the game if that is the case, but that video, that polished marketing asset, sure.
That sure looks good.
But like, I don't know. It's,
Yeah. It does look good.
You mentioned
also, I want a Red Dead that is like that. Sorry, that's my final thought. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That'd be crazy. They announced a new Just Cause game. Did you see that?
Yeah, they did.
Like today.
Okay. No, I didn't.
Just Cause 3. I don't know. I don't really have anything to say about it because I don't know anything about it because it's one of those things where Game Informer was like, check out our new issue because it'll have Just Cause on the cover. So I don't.
Just Cause 3 is just the multiplayer mod, 100 people hang gliding and bungee jumping off each other.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
But Just Cause 2 was something I really, really enjoyed because it was so unrestrained. And then on PC even more so because people modded it like crazy to, as you say, Jake, have hundreds of people multiplayer modes and like just make the physics totally
just way more
bonkers so that
than they already
ropes
were.
wouldn't break and you could just daisy chain jumbo jets and all this shit. So anyway, I don't know what Just Cause 3 is going to be, but I will definitely look at it. What was I going to say? Oh, I'm sorry, Danielle. Were you interrupted when we started?
No.
Sorry, we got excited.
No, I was excited too. I'm just excited to be here.
Because I can talk about Binding of Isaac Rebirth if you are done.
I also played that, but I will happily give you the floor because you know a lot more about that.
Yeah, we can share the floor.
Okay.
Because the main reason I wanted to bring it up, I've played it some more since last week, but the more important reason I brought it up was because last week I brought it up in the context of not really knowing what the point of it was.
Sure.
Because, I played hundreds, I think, hours of the original Binding of Isaac, and I kind of said, well, I mean, it's cool, but I don't really know why this exists. And now I do, because everyone on the Idle Thumbs forums and in our email has told me. And it makes sense, and I think I was just thinking of it in the wrong way. I was thinking of it as someone who hasn't played The Binding of Isaac in, a year or whatever, played it a huge amount, so I feel like I got what I needed out of The Binding of Isaac. I didn't stop playing it for any reason other than I kind of had played a lot of it.
Sure.
So I was like, all right, well, cool, I guess I'm done now. This came out, I checked it out just because And I think I was expecting it to maybe say something different than the Binding of Isaac did.
Sure.
Which it doesn't really, I don't think. But it makes a lot more sense to me now as not like a new thing for me specifically, but if you still want to play Binding of Isaac, this is just a way better version of it. That
Totally.
Jake, as you said, is not built in Flash, is way more performant because it, I guess the original version was built in ActionScript 2, which is
They said
6-year deprecated version.
Yeah, they said that if a lot of people on the forums mentioned this, that if they added any more content, the game just wouldn't build. Like Binding of Isaac actually was end of life by hitting the technical limitations of Flash circa 2008.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yep. So so that makes sense. And people have also pointed out that a lot of the ways the items interact with each other are more robust and more complete. There's more interplay there.
The game's complexity apparently also scales up over time. Like people had said, that
which is something
like where you're like, it seems simpler, but apparently as you play,
the difficulty kind of ramps up. It sort of
there's a persistence going
played
on
a few times. Yeah, which I didn't realize because I just loaded the game up and started playing, and maybe there was a message about that, and I just don't remember. Anyway, so I played some more of it, and I still don't know if I'm going to keep playing a bunch more of it because it is still at its core is still the same game. It is not a radically different game in fundamental identity. So I don't know if I necessarily need to play dozens more hours of this version of it, but as the version of that is now the like canonical, this is Binding of Isaac. This is the version of this game that will exist forever. Sure, that makes sense. I don't know if I actually like how it looks more. I don't think I do. I think I like the original one more, mainly because it feels more like it came right out of one guy's brain, which is kind of the thing I like about The Binding of Isaac. The Binding of Isaac is a game that I don't think has all that much deep stuff to say about religion or child abuse or parental relationships or anything. I'm not that I'm saying it's trying to say deep things about those, but you know, the only reason I bring this up is because I don't thematically value it for that reason. I value it thematically because it so strongly feels like it comes out of one guy's fucked up brain and his hangups and his upbringing. And not that I'm suggesting he's like, it's autobiographical,
right?
But it's very clearly like someone who just, if he were around in the 70s, would have been making underground alternative comics that are like this. But he's a video game developer, so he makes this game.
Right.
And I really like
the pachinko machine that is Edmund McMillan's brain is the only one that you could drop the marbles down and you would get the Binding of Isaac. Like
yes, exactly. And I think his original art style that he said he drew that every asset in that game in 2 months, and he sees that as a failing or like a part of the game that is not as good as it could be. I see that as an awesome thing that makes the game feel totally cohesive.
Well, it means he had a complete game that had its own, like, just done in 2 months also.
Just made it, yeah.
I mean, the game probably took more than 2 months to develop.
From an art standpoint, there's something to be said for you have a fully realized... I rest my case. Like going from nothing to the complete aesthetic that shipped in the Binding of Isaac in 2 months and just having that be open and shut.
Right. Yeah, there's something about that I think is really potent.
In a different way.
Yes, definitely. And I understand why
Man, it keeps sounding like I'm farting, but it's this chair.
I believe you.
Sure, Jake. He seems like he was never happy with how that game looked, which I understand, right? Like, it's hard to judge your own work the same way that other people will judge your work. But, you know, there was something I really liked about how DIY it felt.
Yeah.
And how much of a personal expression, as ridiculous of one as it was, like, that is... Like, I've seen some comments from people who have only played that game for the first time now that the new game is out, which I can understand. I mean, that's part of the reason for releasing a remake of a game is you hope you'll find a bigger audience. And I've seen some people just be like, what the hell is this? It's just disgusting and gross and like really nasty. And I totally understand that reaction, but I think that the fact that he made something that is that off-putting is kind of great. Like, kind of great. Yeah. Like, it's not, I don't...
It was probably not on purpose, but in the first game, in the original game, especially because of like, I don't know if does the new version have the like sort of weird, breathy, preachy Edmund Macmillan reading the story of the Binding of Isaac? Because that opening coupled with that art style, it being like it looking the way that it does and telling the story of a kid who's getting locked in the basement and then he goes on these crazy adventures, but the game looks in very many ways like it's drawn with an adult representing a juvenile hand. Like it looks like an art style that evolved from the way that he drew goofy little gross things as a child, like the way Edmund himself
definitely
did.
Yeah, for sure.
I think the game looking like a stylized version of something that could come from the hand of a child helped the poop and gross monsters and all that stuff maybe feel a little more okay.
I think you're actually right about
because
that.
There's something because this is obviously a stupid read on the Binding of Isaac, but one could go so far as to say that he was thrown in the basement by his mom and then just drew all this stuff, and that's what it is. You know, that's obviously not what it is, but it feels like it all. Whereas now this is like we've hired a bunch of professional video game artists to render in immaculate detail a poo and a fly that lands in poo.
Yes,
like and poo that you squish. You know, like a coat hanger that comes out of your head. Like it's just like when that stuff is totally slapdash, it feels like it's forgivable in a way that it's not when it's professionally rendered because it's slapdash. Like it's what you draw in the margins of something when you're a funny. Anyone, when you're a bored person in school, you draw a fucking poo and a fly landing on it in the corner of your notes when your notes are about death of a salesman, you know?
Right.
But you probably don't then have a career where you draw art of poo unless you're trying to say something very specific with it.
Right. No, that's a really good point. And I think that is exacerbated by some of the other aesthetic choices in this version of the game, which I'm not crazy about. Like, it has more sophisticated lighting and things like procedural glow around your character. Right, so this feels like the
Spelunky to Spelunky HD treatment in some ways then.
Yes, although...
Like from a tech standpoint, it feels like they looked at some of the blogs.
From a tech standpoint, yeah. But it says something different than Spelunky to Spelunky HD. Spelunky to Spelunky HD is like more primitive pixel art to more advanced pixel art, where this is like a totally different.
Yeah, it's a different look.
Like, I feel weird having such an extreme read on it as someone who didn't play a lot of the Binding of Isaac, but I like. Yeah,
you played some of it though, right?
I did. You did. Yeah. I played it. I didn't play the new one at all, but I do feel like there's something really powerful in a game that looks like it's something that someone could have just thrown away.
Yeah, totally.
But it's actually an incredibly deep thing that you can put hundreds of hours into.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the same way of like, not in the same way, but like it feels like you buy a comic by an independent comic artist that is incredibly meticulously made, like a Fantagraphics book or whatever.
Like Chris Ware. Or whatever.
Any guys of that sort of era and ilk, and then you see them at Comic-Con and they have like a paperback sketchbook that's just a bunch of shit that they threw away, and that probably does just have a weird mix of beautiful character studies, occasionally really poignant stuff, and then just a guy with a huge boner or whatever, like it's just all that shit is just in there, and like I don't know, this is just the thing that I don't care about,
right?
But like there's also value in that in a very different way. Like you can still be emotionally affected by it and stuff, but that doesn't. I don't know if you should take your sketchbook and then
upres it,
redraw all of it as a high definition thing.
Sure.
Although I think Chris Ware actually has probably done that. But
I'm sure. Well, I mean, probably everyone does that, but in some form or another. But I think, as you say, the particular subject matter of this game felt, and like just sort of the thematic framing of it felt, I think, quite suited to Ed McMillan's style, which makes sense because the entire aesthetic component of that game was solely created by Edmund McMillan, right? He worked with Florian Himsel as the programmer, but like the entire story conception and like visual design of that game all came directly from McMillan's brain. So like it kind of makes sense that all worked as one thing.
Right. And obviously he's welcome to like the new version more. It's his game, and people who play it are more than welcome to enjoy the new version more for all the things that it offers. Like it's more polished.
Definitely. But and I think once you've gotten to the point where you've kind of digested your reading of this game, and now you're just kind of playing it for the game that it is, which I totally understand because I got to that point with The Binding of Isaac for sure, right? Like on hour 150, you're not really thinking about like, oh, it's like a kid doodling in the margins. You're just running levels, and that's what I was doing, and that's totally fine. And so in that light, it makes total sense. You're just like, okay, I just need a version that actually runs on my fucking computer, like doesn't break and isn't a piece of shit.
Doesn't have slowdown when there's 16 guys.
So that's totally fine. But as someone who then had a year of break in between and was sort of reapproaching it as just an artifact, it was less impactful to me.
Yeah, because I think it probably has left some things behind.
Yeah,
that it may not have meant to, or that maybe
or
didn't
that,
speak to Edmund McMillan as a third-person observer of his own work, but spoke to people more or whatever.
Yep.
It left some poo behind. That's what happened.
I think the thing is, it took all the poo, but it left some other stuff.
Yeah.
In the middle it was sure to take all the poo.
Yes, all the poo is in there.
It moved. The poo sounds are louder too.
They totally are.
Yeah. Right.
Oh my god.
It took all of the poo from its weird, ramshackle, dilapidated, gross house that was barely holding together, and then it set the poo down in this nice, brand new mansion.
A poo mansion.
And maybe poo just doesn't fit as well in a mansion as it does smeared on the wall of a ramshackle old house.
Right.
I think what I would say is it took the poo and it's not giving it back.
That's what I would also say. Sorry, we just...
No,
we've ruined our podcast.
That was delightful.
Yeah, we did. That's one of those in-jokes that we have on the podcast that...
we don't talk about poo.
No, we talk about poo.
No, we talk about poo. We sadly also frequently talk about Kangaroo Jack.
We don't talk about Kangaroo Jack.
That's true.
And yet...
we only reference the poster to Kangaroo Jack.
We referenced the tagline to the poster to the film Kangaroo Jack.
He stole the money and he's not giving it back.
When we were doing the Kickstarter, it was so hard to not talk about Kangaroo Jack. It was in fact so hard to not talk about him that we talked about him within 3 minutes of the first Kickstarter podcast. Yes. So what's your experience with Isaac Rebirth been like?
I barely played the first. I would just sort of, experience a tiny little taste of the first.
Okay.
And then now I'm playing Isaac with my girlfriend. I'm playing co-op, and I'm having fun with that. That is, I believe, a new
Oh, right, there's
mode.
co-op also. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
man, I
and I'm
totally
really
forgot
enjoying
that exists. Is it
Yeah.
all online co-op, or is it
we're playing it same screen.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's online. It might very well be.
God, I totally forgot about that part of it.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's cool. I mean,
I bet.
This whole discussion of aesthetics has been really, really interesting. And I'm having all these thoughts about it. But, in terms of just my experience, it's been really fun. I'm not good at it. I only played probably an hour of the original. So just playing a little bit now, I'm just getting my Isaac legs, I guess you would call them. Maybe you wouldn't want to call them that. I'm sort of playing as the little... So there's Isaac, and then if you're the co-op player, which I'm chiefly the co-op player because I'm not very good at this game. My girlfriend is a lot better at it. She's played it a lot more. I'm sort of the little fetus dude who's kind of hanging out with Isaac. And
So is the co-op character always a support character? Or is it are you technically two Isaacs? Or
I believe you're pretty much always a support character. I only have one heart, and it's from Isaac, basically.
Of course. Man, that's good. That's classic thematic Isaac stuff. I was wondering,
good,
because whenever I actually just think of Binding of Isaac in a half second, my brain always thinks of it in terms of Legend of Zelda, because the dungeons have the same art as Zelda.
Totally.
But really, though, the way the game plays is closer to something like Smash TV.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. And Smash TV is fucking fun with multiple players.
Zelda more than it feels like it.
Yes.
That reminds me, though, one thing that they added in this game, which I guess is cool, it feels fine, I don't have a strong opinion about it, is that rooms now can be bigger than one screen, so to speak.
Yes.
So rooms can be double-sized.
Right.
In other words, they can actually start scrolling.
Which is actually way closer. Isn't that to something like Smash TV than it is to Zelda? Games like that are more likely to have...
I thought Smash TV was room by room, the same as Zelda.
Is it? I thought the game had scrolls. I guess it doesn't. There are top-down games of that style.
Maybe it does.
Like top-down two-stick kill everything games
yeah.
like that. But yeah, you're right. I think that game might be all one screen too.
Yeah, which is kind of cool and interesting, because in rooms like that, as the co-op player, I cannot... go too far from Isaac. The screen will actually, I will just have sort of a range around Isaac that I can get to, and I can't see very well, sort of what's around me if I'm sort of at the end of that range.
Yeah.
But it works really well. I'm having a lot of fun with it.
Cool.
In terms of just pure gameplay.
Nice.
I've been streaming it with my girlfriend, and we've just sort of been laughing at the poo and like the 5-year-olds that we are, but...
Man, speaking of streaming...
Yes.
We are going to be... Danielle is going to be doing some more regular streaming from the Idle Thumbs Twitch channel starting really soon.
Yeah.
Whenever we can remember our password.
As soon as I get that password, I'll be in there.
So we are going to reset our password, and then we are going to hook Danielle up with it. And then if you go to twitch.tv/idlethumbs, you can sign up there. You'll get notified whenever she goes live, or anyone else, but probably mainly her.
It'll be a lot of me. You'll hear my Rhode Island accent. I usually use my accent to read any in-game text in most of the games that I stream.
Well, guess I'm watching Twitch soon.
You get the pure experience there.
Cool.
Yep.
All right.
That'll be fun.
Cool. Well, I will. I can't believe I totally forgot about the co-op component of this thing. That's a really obvious get.
Yeah.
I just forgot that it exists. I guess because I just don't really play a lot of multiplayer these days for a lot of reasons.
Sure. Yeah.
But that's cool. I'm glad that it's fun.
Yeah.
I wonder if it has stuff in it that is either co-op only or more easily accessible through co-op.
Ooh.
The way that Isaac had, or not Isaac, the way that Spelunky had. Man, isn't there like that eggplant character or something in Spelunky that is more like
so
you
there's
can
an eggplant
you
run.
can
It's not a character. So the eggplant run is a thing we've talked about ages ago on Idle Thumbs. Basically, you have like a very fragile item that you have to carry through the entire game, and it's sort of impossible to do.
Right, someone did a solo eggplant run, but it's really meant to. The solo eggplant run was notable enough that like articles were written about it. But it's intended that you pass it back and forth, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if Isaac has anything like that. That's sort of if you're playing 2-player, there's a secondary objective.
I will investigate. I will report back.
You probably won't even have to because we'll just be told.
It's true.
We're gonna get told.
You're right, actually.
We're gonna get told.
People will talk about
the Isaac eggplant.
I'm still going to investigate.
You should.
Please do.
You're a journalist after all.
Just for fun, it's as an investigative journalist into the world of Isaac.
As a video game journalist, you should find out. This is the sort of hard-hitting and also objective coverage that we're hoping for.
Absolutely.
Is there content in The Binding of Isaac Rebirth tailored to multiplayer co-op play? I don't know this. I'm not near a computer or close enough to one to look it up for myself. So I expect you, a journalist, to find this information and give it to me, because that is what journalism is and should be.
Right. Hard-hitting.
That is journalism at its least corrupt and most beneficial to me, a lazy customer.
Thank you, dear reader. I'll
that's
keep
Jake.
on that.
That's me.
Dear reader Jake.
Dear reader. Speaking of readers, speaking of dear readers, do we want to hear things from them?
From those dear readers?
I think we probably do.
Excellent.
I suppose.
So here's a quick one that's nice, I think.
Here's a nice.
It's from Bro1. Oh,
Christian Young.
Bro1 writes,
Dear Idle Thumbs crew, this is Christian Young, not Bro1. He writes, Dear Idle Thumbs crew, while I know Danielle might not be on the next podcast, that's where you're wrong.
What?
I want to thank you as well as her for pointing me in the direction of her game, The Wonderful World of Dad Jokes.
Oh, goodness.
My dad died quite recently, and as we can all relate to, he had his own brand of dad jokes. It was really good to play a game about such a societal phenomenon, while at the same time, it really had a deeper connection with me, and obviously Danielle as well. I love the idea of it so much that based on your recommendation, I did a Let's Play of me playing it for the first time over a gaming channel I do with my partner and friends. You don't have to mention the channel if you don't want to, as I don't want to sound like a plug. But I will anyway. It's Sly
totally... Tiger
Gaming. That was me, Chris, saying I will anyway.
Yeah.
I don't want to sound like a plug, but I will anyway, writes this reader, who I'm cooling to rapidly.
Yeah.
No,
it was Sly Tiger Gaming, so you can search for that if you like. He says, I just wanted to let you and Danielle know that I really like hearing recommendations from you about games like this. like games like this? Does he mean ones you made? I will often take notes during your podcast and go play the games when I get home. I told everyone I knew about the 2 Rooms and a Boom game that you and Anita raved about because you took the time to explain it to us. So thanks for that, and I would love to know, who do you turn to for gaming recommendations? Cheers, Christian. I turn to Danielle.
I generally turn to Danielle, yeah.
Oh, that's excellent. Well, I just want to say thank you. That's like really heartwarming.
Yeah, that's really sweet. I know.
Touched somebody. I sort of like, I showed my dad the game while I was developing it, and I don't see him as often. It makes me a little sad. I'm pretty close with my dad in real life, and so I sort of, that almost brings a tear to my eye. I don't want to cry on the podcast, but that's super sweet. So thank you for saying that and liking the thing.
So as far as game recommendations, I would be willing to wager that you get some from Patricia.
I do. I definitely do. And I'm so lucky. Like, as a game journalist, I get codes and I get to play a lot of things. And, so I play a lot of crap, but I also play a lot of really amazing games. I get a lot from Patricia. I get a lot from just sort of the most interesting folks I talk to on Twitter. A lot of the sort of indie designers.
Twitter is, like, I would say, a huge thing.
My friend Liz gives me a lot of great recommendations. She likes a lot of, like, really cool and interesting sort of underground indie stuff. So, they get it from cool people in my life.
If I see a few mentions of a game in close succession on Twitter, I generally look at it and go, "Oh, cool! Nice. I should play that," and then I don't.
And then don't.
And then I don't. Yeah.
Because I'm the worst host of any video game podcast ever produced.
That's true.
Well, I have this pretty cush job where I get to play games a lot, so
I know.
It's kind of like I kind of get to do it for work, and it's kind of nice.
Sure.
So, and I didn't say cush to be sarcastic. I actually mean like that is a cush aspect of this job that I have.
I would call it a cush aspect.
Yes, a cush aspect, yes.
I would call you Cush Aspect, attorney at law. Cush Aspect, CPA.
Cush Aspect, MD.
Okay, let's see what else we have here. There's a whole thing about Payday 2, but I'll wait till Sean's back for that. Here's a good one.
I'll appreciate that.
Brandon Hennessy writes, "Hi Thumbs, a reader in your last episode shared a story about being stuck in Porto Novo in 80 days with no money after being stuck traveling there on a slaver ship, having to beg for a month to cover the cost of the 4,000-pound ticket to Freetown. There's actually a second, much cheaper way out of Porto Novo, which I took on my 4th playthrough, but it is the roughest journey of the entire game by far. You have to join up with an actual slaver caravan on a grueling 8-day slave hunting expedition to Timbuktu. It is physically and emotionally draining, and Passepartout is so ashamed of it that he's reluctant to even start narrating. I won't spoil any specifics, but suffice it to say it was absolutely brutal, and after getting to Timbuktu, I felt like human garbage. On top of everything else, the journey took so long that I lost the wager anyway, so it was literally all for nothing. I should have just begged. Best, Brandon."
Wow, crazy. That game sounds...
Yeah, this game
so
is
good.
Out of control. It is so good. It's... that is a great thing. And it's hard to imagine that being done similarly uncompromisingly in a game that is like graphically more representational. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that is really cool.
That's kind of cool that the game
cool
is...
in a horrible way, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's cool that the game is saying those things.
Like in sort of like a wish
in such a
fulfillment.
way. Wish fulfillment.
Sort of way.
Let's see what else we have here.
Cush Aspect writes in.
Alex Lovendahl writes, "Hi Thumbs.
Call me
I'm
Cush
curious.
Aspect.
I'm curious to know what your feelings are on old school arcade games. I've been playing through all my weird arcade collections, like Sonic's Ultimate Genesis collection, and spent an especially large amount of time this week playing Space Harrier and Fantasy Zone. They're not meant to be played without onlookers, score chasing, and quarters to sink into the machine, but I wonder if you guys have fond memories for any particular kind of arcade game, or even these games in particular. Keep up the great work. Danielle's been a great addition to the show, and for the Sims 3 story, thank you, Nick Bregan." Alex Lovendahl.
God, oh,
I would like to thank Nick Bregan for that as well.
That was an amazing story from Nick. I was obsessed with Crazy Taxi.
Oh,
I
me
was
too.
a
Except
Crazy
I never
Taxi.
played it in the arcade. I only played it on
really?
I played
like,
Dreamcast.
Dreamcast, yeah.
I mean, I played it on my Dreamcast, but I also definitely, mall arcade in Rhode Island.
That's cool.
Saw quite
I'm jealous of people who had the arcade experience with that game, because I didn't even know it was an arcade game.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean,
I just wasn't an arcade kid.
It's such an amazingly well designed racing whatever
Oh, yeah,
game.
it's
Like
great.
it's just such an awesome game. It I still have such fond memories. And I played the sequel on the Dreamcast. I played all of the Crazy Taxi games. And I was visiting a friend who had just had surgery, and we played Crazy Taxi. Like,
oh, nice.
You drove people to Taco Bell?
I did.
You drove them to KFC?
I so did to KFC. And I love how
drove them to those Yum brands?
they also, like, oh my god, all the little people in the game also had, like, personalities. It was almost as if, like, I don't know if you ever did this with Mario or whatever, but if you poured over the entirety of the instruction booklet in the Dreamcast version, there were, like, personalities to each one of these little people. Like, one of the women was a psychology student at the university, and she really likes going to these restaurants or whatever. It was just amazing and nuts and wonderful. Everything about that game was really, really great.
Yeah, my experience with the arcade at this point is just wishing that I had gone to the arcade more when I was a kid.
I know, me too.
As an adult, whenever I'm in a video arcade, especially one that is not a total, like, on its way out of business one, but like any arcade that's reasonably full, whether it's in a mini golf course or something crazy like Ground Control in Portland, all that I just enjoy it. I like being in arcades. I like playing arcade games. and it makes me sad that I only I probably had the number of weekends that I was able to go to an arcade as a kid I can count on one hand.
Yeah, me
and
too.
I enjoyed it, but it was not
for me. It was never an arcade. It was like we're at the movie theater and they have the sad little room with 4 cabinets in it, and I go to there.
Yeah, the bowling alley in our town had an arcade, and then a couple places like that. But I don't know.
So mine are all weird ones that are like at my doctor's office there was a Pac-Man cocktail table thing,
That's
and at the
great.
movie theater there was Tubin, and which I love.
I love Tubin. Tubin
good.
is one of the.
And they had the Simpsons arcade game too at my movie theater.
Oh, I was gonna say I had a long running. We, as Rhode Islanders, we ate a lot of pizza, and at our family pizza place, we would go and not just go to pick up the pizza. We would go and order it and just sit there for half an hour and sort of do that. So I feel like I actually got quite a bit of Simpsons arcade time. In my life of eating pizza in Rhode Island.
When I was at XOXO in Portland, I guess that was in September. They had an event. They had a free play event at Ground Control, which is the arcade and bar in Portland. And the thing, aside from the Pac-Man Battle Royale, the thing that I played the most, man, I might have talked about this. I played a lot of 720 Degrees.
Oh, nice.
By which I mean I played it at all beyond because it was in free play, so I was actually able to play it, and I thought that I was doing okay. And then Bennett Foddy, the guy who made Quap and Pole Riders and worked on Sports Friends, came by and said, "Oh man, they have 720 Degrees. This is my favorite game." And
awesome.
I've never heard anyone say 720 degrees.
That is what it is. It's called 720, but it is 720 and a degree symbol because it's a double.
But you guys both
flip. No, he said that. I don't remember what he said. I totally don't remember what he called the game, but he said, this game's great. It's got all sorts of stuff that I like, and there's a system to it that I've gotten pretty good at. Let's give it a go. And I just watched him. He started on difficult because you can choose what starting point it was, and just watched him just destroy this game. The way that game works, I also have never been alive in 720 long enough to understand the structure of that game.
Sure.
But it has an overworld that has a bunch of challenges in it, and then
I've never played this game. I've seen it.
And then in different areas there's upgrades for your board, pads, helmet. You got to be able to upgrade your pads and your helmet. They make you a better skateboarder because they want kids in the 80s or early 90s to learn that if you have sick safety gear, you're more sick. Yeah. And then there's also a bunch of events. There's downhill, there's slalom, there's a trick ramp, and a race, or I don't remember what they all are, but he had the order of operations down for how to go around this thing so that he always had the gear that was the best for the next event, and the money he won would always spend. But it's an arcade game. It has all these things that if they were in a console game now, it would just be free ride around the skate park and then join an event whenever you want. But since this is an arcade game, when you're out in the overworld, there's a ticking clock. And if the clock starts getting low, a swarm of bees just starts chasing you around. So then though, it's a press your luck situation if you're good at the game, because you then are
so this is like the Ghost in Spelunky.
Yeah, it is. It is like the Ghost of Spelunky, because if you do extra tricks and do weird moves out there, you get more money and more points, which you can use to then quickly drive by an upgrade station and sneak one extra upgrade in before time runs out to jump into one of the mini games. Yeah. And it was fun to watch. It's also a game that its controller is a joystick, but it's a joystick at an angle that so it's sort of, imagine a joystick permanently 45 degrees tipped, but then it's not actually mounted on a joystick mount. I think it's mounted on a really stiff steering wheel, because what you actually do is you then rotate it around almost like a crank.
Wow.
And that's what controls the turn of the skateboarder, but it means that you can jump and then quickly turn the crank around a whole bunch to make your guy do really fast flips in the air. You have to do 720 degree rotation. So watching someone who's good at that game do the tricks on the half pipe, but then also just it makes this rumble. I don't. Anyway,
it's like a physical performance too.
Yeah, that was my most recent arcade experience. Was watching Bennett Foddy wreck 720 for a while, and that was actually really notable. And it was, again, made me be geez, if I had been a kid who somehow had a bunch of quarters, I could actually. This could have been a thing that I played when it was new.
Yeah.
But I never would have been able to appreciate it the way that goddamn Quap and Sports Friends guy did. Anyway,
amazing.
My most kind of notable, even relatively recent arcade experience was when I went to California Extreme, which is a local pinball and arcade showcase here in the Bay Area, California. This was, I don't know, 3 years ago maybe. We went down to California Extreme, and I found a Klax machine. Klax is not a game. I'm sure I talked about this, so I won't talk about it long. Which is a game that I had never played before. It's Klax. And the tagline is, "It is the 90s, and there is time for Klax," which is amazing. It's fucking amazing. The game came out in the 80s, by the way. So so that's a thing. And I played it for hours. You have to pay an admission to get into California Extreme, and then once you do, it's a classic Expo style arcade thing where you pay once to get in and you play games they're all in free play. And
so awesome. Yeah.
I wasted, as soon as I found that machine, I wasted my remaining 4 hours at this thing just playing Klax. It's like exactly the kind of thing that I love. It's like a sort of Tetris-ish, not really like Tetris, but there's color blocks that come down from the top of the screen. And then you have to match them with like colors. And you can match them diagonally, horizontally, vertically. And it, gets faster and faster, of course. You start getting into that Tetris flow state where you're just just flicking the stick left and right.
So good.
In fractions of a second. And holy crap. And then I spent months after trying to find a decent online Klax version, and they're all garbage, of course. Yeah.
If only somebody would pick up the Klax baton and just...
I think there was an iOS version that I played, or Android maybe at the time. I can't remember. And it was not the same.
What was the game that was on, I guess, either PlayStation or Xbox or something that was by the Meteos guy? The game that it was a rhythm game, but also a bunch of tile-based stuff. It had the bar that would go across the entire...
Luminous?
Yeah. Jeez, sorry.
That game was great. I played that for a long time.
Yeah.
Meteos is also
Meteos I played
awesome.
for a summer. After I got my DS, I remember basically the only game I played was Meteos. The only game I played on any platform for 3 months straight was Meteos. I played so much of it.
I built every planet. I played that every night before bed for my first year of grad school. I seriously played that that was my bedtime ritual. It was time for some Meteos, and I would go to the moon one because I had that chill music. And all right, sleepy time now.
Yep.
Such an awesome game.
Cool. You want to call it for this week, or you got another one?
Yeah, we can call it.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Thanks for joining us on Idle Thumbs Video Game Podcast. If you liked us, rate us on iTunes.
Rate us?
Rate us on iTunes.
Rate us and write us.
Write us at questions@idlethumbs.net.
Yes. We're on Twitter at Idle Thumbs.
Or on Twitch at twitch.tv/idlethumbs.
Yeah. Where Danielle will be playing games.
Yes.
What games? I don't know.
Probably you'll be looking at Klax clones.
Some Klax likes.
Be perusing some Knuckles fan art.
Yeah, definitely some of that. Definitely maybe some Sunless Sea, perhaps.
Oh, like a real game.
Like a game. One of those video games, perhaps.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Good time.
Yeah.
Stay away from Knuckles.
On Twitch, you generally have to be playing a game or have some sort of game-related content for them to approve of your content,
they do.
right?
Yes.
I mean, I don't think anyone's going to stop you. They're not going to pop into your channel.
I think
what is this?
You can be. I imagine if you're reported and you're not doing a game-related thing, you'll be in trouble. But okay,
I don't know what it means to be in trouble.
You'll just turn you off or cancel your account or something. Because when talking about doing not game-related things on there, I immediately thought about just tagging myself as playing Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, and then have the stream literally just be me eating a bag of nacho cheese Doritos.
Slamming Mountain Dew.
Yeah, just watching TV.
This is what it is to play Advanced
I mean, let's
Warfare.
be honest. How much are you going to use your personal Twitch account, and do you really care if it gets banned?
I don't know if I've ever actually streamed anything off of my account.
Time to start.
The time is now.
Yeah. Sorry, that. In the words of the great, not appearing in this episode, Sean Vanaman, that's not on the podcast. So there's a pretty normal Sonic the Hedgehog character. It's just, Sonic the Hedgehog.
What? It's just a blob.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. It looks like they just took Knuckles and then just Like it's like when you grow like a pumpkin or a squash inside of one of those plastic things that let you make a novelty face grow out of it. Like it feels like they just grew Knuckles into one of those. Like, God, it's so just like the lineup of just da 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 da.
What?
Huh? Like what?
I don't like his eyes
But like
either.
he just looks.
God, he's got these weird
his
things
beady
coming on his
eyes.
face that just look like more, making
just
this
looks
look
like a
more misshapen and
hamburger
bulbous.
Yeah. No, it's so good.
It's so weird.
Oh man, just the slow pan by of the lineup where you just and then he's just buh.
What?
But like here's the thing though. We all remember what Knuckles used to look like. He just looked like Sonic the
He just
Hedgehog,
looks
but
like a
with
cartoon,
cheesy
It's like
dreads.
dreads, yeah.
Yeah, but like they were the same probably because they were actually the same sprite with color swaps and different hair and stuff. But like then Knuckles fucking roided up.
Look at him! Look at him!
Oh, people's fucking
my
anime
God.
versions of it. Oh, no.
People also are aware. This is him saying, "I got ripped."
I got ripped.
Like people all obviously think that this is dumb shit.
Did you see that shit?
No, what?
Oh my god, their pool DLC? The Sims pool DLC? Their pool DLC? Pool DLC? Oh my god, their pool DLC? The pool DLC. It's fucking crazy. Their fucking trailer for the pool DLC is a minute 40 of like pretty compelling build a pool anywhere in your house on any level with like clear walls. Like cool shit. Like really like you can do all sorts of shit with pools in your Sims homes. And then the last 20 seconds, it's like a guy builds a pool in a yard, like, and then like 8 Sims jump in and are partying it down, and the guy just goes like, and puts a wall around the pool, and they all drown.
What?
What? That's the trailer?
That's a trailer! And then like ghosts are partying in the next scene, all the other Sims. But like a guy baby walls it, and you just hear like, oh. They all die, and then that's how it, like they introduce the idea of there's now ghosts. Pools and ghosts.
The Sims is trying to
Gone
get you to
sequel.
come to terms with death.
Cool, fun, fucking neon ghost death, though.
It's a fable for our age. It's delightful.
Anyway, it's really strange that it's a really, like, this whatever Sims update and then just baby wall at the end. Fucking weird.
They know what people do.
They know what Nick Brecken does.
That's all I ever did.
That was my only video game news. If we can do 20 minutes on Taylor Swift's 1989, I mean... It's so good!
Accurate response.
Fuck you and your fucking face, you motherfucker. It's fucking good.
Won't stop listening to it.
It's
She won't
because it's a good musical album.